This is the Celebrity Authority Show. Please welcome our host, Sam
Awesome. It's great to have you guys again here on the Celebrity Authority Show. I'm super excited because I have Dee Allan joining us here. Welcome, Dee. Hey, Dee. Now you're like a success coach, professional speaker, and specifically helping people with grit. Tell us a little bit more. What exactly is grit? We might have heard of it. What is it?
Sure. Okay. So the definition of grit is having courage with resolve. And grit researcher Angela Duckworth, she called it in her TEDx talk, passion meets persistence. So essentially, grit is the secret thing that you have within you to get things done, to persevere, to have the endurance over the long run.
Yeah, I really like that. Hey, look, I'd love to deep dive into that in a moment. Share with us a little bit more about who Dee Allan is and why is she so passionate about grit.
Okay, so I'm from the UK and I'm a daughter of Indian immigrants. I was raised in a very rough neighbourhood and
In UK?
in the UK, an extremely racist, violent, gang and drug-filled type environment. And when you live in that type of environment, I unknowingly started to develop grit to survival. That was the game when I was a child. So that's where, now I look back at it, I can see that I was exercising my grit muscle to get through some of the early challenges and trauma.
Far out. And then obviously going through school, it was a tough school environment, then maybe going on to a career, is that right?
That's right, yeah. So, being an ethnic minority in the UK and growing up, we're talking the 80s and 90s, that was extremely challenging because you're not accepted. You're not accepted. So you have to carve a different way, find a different way. So, you have this, I don't know if you've ever come across, there was a Harvard paper written on it, adopting an immigrant's mindset and how companies a lot of companies need people to adopt this immigrant's mindset because an immigrant has to work in a slightly different way to push through to get things done because they're faced with prejudice, stereotype, racism, and so a lot of immigrants who have had to overcome challenges in their countries, war, etc., cross 7 oceans to set up home in a new country, develop grit, have grit and resilience and all of those things. So when they set up a business, the graft and the way they work is very different to somebody that perhaps hasn't had to face adversity. So grit is the secret sauce.
I can certainly see your passion, enthusiasm coming through. Look, we're currently in our Singapore studios, and the reality is now you reside here in Singapore. How did you originally come?
Yeah, so I came in 2007 because I decided to set up a business here in Singapore, and that required grit. And so,
awesome.
Yeah.
But who does that?
Yes.
Like you're living in UK, and then what? You just suddenly thought, I'm going to start a business in Singapore, yay!
Yeah, pretty much, Sam. So I was in a company after graduating. I worked in a corporate for about 4 years, and I decided that I didn't want to be a small part in this big machine, and I was in sales role and making lots of commission, but I decided that I would love to design the machine, my own machine.
Wow.
And the UK being a very mature market, I felt that I would have a bigger impact if I went to Asia. And I worked in the construction field, so a woman in construction, that's another whole thing.
Yeah.
But when I looked at Asia, I was looking at where is there a lot of construction. And so I settled at that time, shall I go to Dubai, Hong Kong, or Singapore? And I ended up in Singapore being the starting point, and then moved on.
What did your parents initially think of that?
No, they're great.
They're supportive.
They are. Yeah, I'm really lucky to have, particularly my mum, who is a gritty mother herself. So like mum played hockey for India, So mum represented her country and was traveling the world playing sports. And she did that in at a time where, you know, a good Indian girl should get married or stay at home, get an education, but like not go out wearing short mini skirts and tight tops and play sports all around the world, you know. So she did that anyway. So and then when growing up in the very racist neighborhood, we owned a shop and it was opposite a pub. So almost every other night, you know, the drunkards would come out and smash our windows. And so mum had 3 young kids at home, and so she became this, you know, she was protecting us. And so I saw a lot of that grit spirit through my mum and modelled it, I guess.
You know, I'm sure there are people out there that obviously might be going through, you know, some tough times in their own life, whether their personal life, their professional life, and maybe they think this could be the answer, grit. What would you say to them?
I would say absolutely it is the answer. Grit is the answer to getting things done.
So if I wanted to have grit, let's say I'm going through a tough time, I'm going through a transition in my life. If I wanted to have or get grit, what do I need to do?
Okay.
Teach me.
Okay.
Because I'm interested.
Yeah, sure. Sam, there's 3 specific personas that you need to step into to exercise grit, and you will need all 3 of them, and in different dosages at different times. And to be fair, actually, we can do the grit test right now.
I
can probably
bring it on.
Test you right now with your own story, with your own biggest adversity, whatever that is.
I love it.
Let me first teach you what the 3 personas are. To exercise grit, sometimes we need to step into what I call the robot. Okay, the robot is persistent. They keep turning up. Okay,
So they'll never give up. Keep going.
They persist,
Robot.
like a machine in a factory arm. They keep doing it. The action is repetitive. You persist. So when you're a robot, the stories don't get in the way, right? The emotional stories. I don't feel like it today. I can't be bothered. I'm tired. A robot doesn't do that. They turn up. They keep doing it. That's persistence. Okay. The next energy that you're going to have to call upon is the warrior, because the warrior is resilient. Okay, the warrior energy will, when you fall down, they will pick themselves up and they will dust the blood and whatever, and they'll keep going no matter how hard it is, right? And the final energy is the wizard. Okay, the wizard is the resourceful one. The wizard is who creates the magic. The wizard is the one that's creative, finds a solution. So you've got to step into it different times, and sometimes all 3 need to show up. The robot, the warrior, the wizard. So when you apply it to yourself, with your story, with Building Speakers Institute or whatever it was, have you or have you not had to at times behave? Well, let's start with the robot.
Yeah, 100%.
To get things done, you've got to show up. If you want to lose weight, you've got to get your shoes on and go and run. You know, you've got to turn up.
Right, I love it.
Have you or have you not had to be a warrior where you have to bring the fight out?
Great.
Have you or have you not had to be a wizard and think, you know, how am I going to do this differently?
It's easier said than done, though. For someone thinking, oh man, I know I have to be the warrior and the robot and the wizard. Is it easier said than done, or is it more that, no matter what, look at the outcome first, or what would you say?
I would say, you know, it sounds difficult, but there is actually processes to step into those roles. There are techniques and tools that if you can learn those, you can step in. So for example, for me, sometimes I have struggled to sometimes show up as much like a warrior. I've had to really tap into that and bring that warrior spirit out. And I do it through a specific visualization technique.
Right, I love it.
And that's one, because historically and as a child, I've always played a peacemaker, being a bit of a sitting on the fence and don't want to offend people and, you know, keep harmony. That hasn't always worked for me. And I've had to step into and build this warrior because it didn't come naturally from a certain position. And sometimes the robot get bored of things. Get bored, get attracted by the next new shiny object. And then, or exercise. I've had a love-hate relationship with exercise, for example.
I think most people have.
And I want to love exercise till this day. But what I've done with that is I've had to build a bit of a robot. I've had to be a bit more of a robot. And there is a specific technique that I go through with getting myself to just show up at the starting line like a robot. And for me, I have a ritual that involves just get your trainers on, Dee. Just get your trainers on. Once the trainers are on, you will go. And I do this whole ritual to making sure I get out the door and do the run. And so I behave like a robot to get the shoes on. Just autopilot, Dee. Get your shoes on, get your this, get the water bottle, autopilot, robot. Once the shoes are on, it's more hustle to get it all the kit off.
Makes sense.
Go out and run.
Makes sense.
Yeah, so there are techniques and tools that can be learned behind each of those 3 personas. And grit is exercised and developed over time. Now, I'll give you a secret. Do you want to know the secret?
Yep. Well, I think we all do, yeah.
Here's the secret. Here's the secret. If you want to growing grit or shrinking it. So let's say you want to grow your grit muscle, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's do this together. Okay, take a dial.
Yep.
Okay.
Right,
So if we want to grow grit, let's turn the dial to the right. Okay, that's growing grit, but I'll tell you what the dial's called in a minute. And if you want to shrink grit, we're going to turn it to the left. So here's what you do if you want to grow grit. So hold the dial with me, right? Okay. We want to grow grit. The secret is time. So turn to the right. Now we're going to spend more time on whatever that goal is.
Right.
Grit will grow with time. So the more time you spend on the goal, the activities,
I like it, of course.
The more the robot, the warrior, and the wizard have to grow. Because you're spending more time doing that thing. Let's turn it the other way. We're going to shrink time.
Yeah.
So now we're not spending as much time on our goals or whatever the project is. So now grit is shrinking because you're not calling on the warrior, the robot, and the wizard to show up. So if you want to grow grit, you've got to spend more time on that task.
Yep, I love it. So what's next? What's next for you, Dee?
So
I see that you've got a powerful message. The world is going to catch it, and I love how easily catchable that you've just explained it. What's next for Dee Allan?
Yeah, so for me, with AI, the robots are coming, and all this disruption and uncertainty that's going on, and I'm looking at the educational system and our corporations, and I firmly believe that we need to teach and learn grit. We need to learn it, and our kids need to learn it. And so for me, my message is to help people develop this grit muscle, because when those robots come, they can the robots will do their robotic role. They might even be able to be programmed to be a bit of a warrior. But what they won't ever be able to do is be a wizard. And so the creativity and the resourcefulness that will be required from us, our wizard spirit, if you like, the robots can't do. So my message is to get people to learn how to do the 3 components of grit.
And so do you run your own workshops? Are you teaching this in corporations? You're writing some resources, getting a book out, is that right?
Yes, the book, yes. You can't do shit without grit, because it's true.
That's what it's called.
That's right.
Whoa,
That's
right.
that is true. And I'd like it to hit home because it's really true. You really can't do shit without grit. I firmly believe it. And so what my next move is, essentially, I'm really doing a lot of work with women because I've had to face, the typical gender glass ceiling stereotypes myself, and I would like women in particular, but anyone in fairness, but to grow their own grit muscle so that they can pay themselves what they want, so they can step out of. Here's the thing. Do you know the 3 things that will kill grit immediately? They cannot survive in the same place. Okay.
Tell us.
If you make excuses, if you're a blamer, and you're a victim, if you are doing any of those 3 things, you cannot be gritty. That's it. You cannot. They will kill grit immediately. And so my work is, and my encouragement is for people to kill off those 3 devils and become grittier. And then we teach our kids, because kids can catch robot warrior wizard.
Yep. Easily for anyone at all to understand. Look, Dee, I've loved this interview, and one thing I love is it was very practical, and we can all learn so much as well. And I feel that we're going to see greater results when we learn how to get gritty in our life, which is just awesome. Hey Dee, just before you go, we have a bit of a challenge. And the challenge is 10 questions in 60-second challenge.
Sure.
So, Dee Allan, do you accept the challenge?
Of course.
All right.
I'm stepping into warrior.
Yeah. All right, Dee, your time starts now. Favourite colour?
Turquoise.
Favourite food?
Dal. Lentils.
Oh, yeah, love. Favourite celebrity?
Oh, I love Serena Williams.
Yeah, great. Favourite actor?
I like Helen Mirren.
Great actress, yeah. Favourite professional speaker?
Tony Robbins.
Yeah, he's the great. He's the good one. Favourite book?
I have enjoyed all of J.K. Rowling's books, so Harry Potter series.
Yeah, right. Favourite movie?
I have enjoyed The Secret recently, the documentary more than a movie.
Favourite drink?
Margarita.
Favourite pizza topping?
Margarita.
And Dee Allan, if you could be an animal, which animal would you be?
A butterfly, for sure.
Why
A butterfly. It's my animal spirit. The butterfly is it takes flight, right?
Yes.
The metamorphosis.
Yes,
it can go wherever it wants, and it's beautiful.
Thank you so much for joining us here on the Celebrity Authority